We are instead gearing up for litigation. Coinbase does not want to litigate against the SEC, and the SEC should not want to litigate this case either. The Coinbase CEO has recently responded to Gary Chancellor and the American SEC. This comes around a month after the SEC issued crypto exchange Coinbase with a Wells notice warning the exchange that it identified potential violations of U.S. securities law. Coinbase has offered a fiery response to the SEC's threat of enforcement action. So, what was said in Coinbase response? What will the future hold for cryptocurrency regulations, and how will all of this affect the value of cryptocurrencies in general? In today's video, we will be summarizing the interview and telling you everything you need to know about the recent Coinbase and SEC news. Now, before we do get to the video, I just want to say I'm not a financial advisor, and I am not an expert on market regulations. I'm simply just updating you with the news and letting you come to your own conclusions. So, around a month ago, the Securities and Exchange Commission issued crypto exchange Coinbase a Wells notice warning the company that it identified potential violations of U.S. securities law. Now, for those of you that don't know, a Wells notice is a formal notice from the SEC informing a recipient that the agency is planning to bring enforcement actions against them. The news of the SEC issuing a Wells notice to Coinbase caused Coinbase shares to fall nearly 12% in extended trading after the news broke. Last month, Coinbase initially responded by saying, based on discussions with the staff, the company believes these potential enforcement actions would relate to aspects of the company's spot market, staking service Coinbase Earn, Coinbase Prime, and Coinbase Wallet. The potential civil action may seek injunctive relief, disgorgement, and civil penalties. The SEC has ramped up its enforcement of the crypto industry, bearing down on companies and projects that the regulator alleges were hawking unregistered securities. Reports first surfaced of an SEC probe into Coinbase in mid-2022. Coinbase described the investigation as cursory and said the Wells notice provided relatively little information about potential violations. Although we don't take this development lightly, we are very confident in the way we run our business, the same business we presented to the SEC in order for us to become a public company in 2021, Coinbase Chief Legal Officer Paul Grewal said in a blog post. The company said that until the resolution of any legal processes, the exchange's offerings would continue to operate as usual. Coinbase executives, including founder and CEO Brian Armstrong, have pushed back against perceived overreach by the SEC, which has moved aggressively against the crypto industry since the collapse of FTX. At the direction of SEC Chair Gary Gensler, the regulator has issued enforcement actions against multiple heavyweights, including Gemini, Genesis, Tron executive Justin Sun, Quan, and crypto exchange Kraken. We are prepared for this disappointing outcome and confident in the legality of our assets and services, Grewal said in a statement. If needed, we welcome a legal process to provide the clarity we have been advocating for and to demonstrate that the SEC simply has not been fair or reasonable when it comes to its engagement on digital assets. Grewal said Coinbase is looking for more regulatory clarity. Tell us the rules and we will follow them, he said. Give us an actual path to register, and we will register the parts of our business that need registering. Now, that was just Coinbase's initial response on March 23, but around 17 hours ago, they released a full response video. The interview starts off with Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong sharing the founding story of Coinbase and their focus on compliance. So again, thank you for the opportunity to respond to this Wells notice, and I thought I'd share a few words just about the founding story of Coinbase and why I decided to base it here in the US and how we've practically sought out compliance over the last 11 years. They then go on to speak about Coinbase's regulatory approach and how Coinbase has proactively worked with regulators for 11 years, despite challenges. Coinbase chose to establish itself in the US due to its rule of law and market opportunities. To some early Bitcoin meetups in San Francisco, and people were telling me, you shouldn't base it in the US. It's going to be too challenging. There's 50 state regulators and multiple federal regulators, and you should start in Hong Kong or Singapore. And there were other firms that were starting at that time that did that, but I made the choice at that moment to start the company in the US because I knew that even if it was more difficult, the US was a major market, there was respect for rule of law, the US was a financial hub, a technology hub, it was a place where I felt entrepreneurs could work in good faith with regulators to help define clear rules for new industries as they emerge. There are some other points made about the growth and expansion of Coinbase. Brian Armstrong speaks on how Coinbase has evolved from a small company to a public one, all whilst maintaining its commitment to regulatory compliance. Although he does mention that at times, it wasn't clear at all what they were meant to do as it was a new industry. We tried to do the right thing in the absence of clarity and should demonstrate good faith effort that would allow us to bring this technology in a safe and thoughtful way to hopefully a billion people someday. Brian then takes a shot at the SEC for the absolute lack of clarity on cryptocurrency and Web3 regulations. Trade perimeter: we want to see a clear market structure for trading crypto securities. Not all crypto assets are securities, there's also crypto commodities, stablecoins, there's crypto that's artwork. We're going to work with multiple regulators to make this industry safe and trusted. And a Wells notice at this stage, when there is not a clear rulebook, is not constructive and it's not good for America. We are prepared to defend that position in court, but it doesn't have to come to that. We welcome a true dialogue about a workable path forward for our industry. Now I'll hand it back. The confidence that Brian Armstrong is showing in this statement is clear to see. It's almost as if they are 100% sure if this was to go to court that they would win the case, which is a good sign for crypto and Coinbase. Especially when you compare this to SBF, who was quite literally shaking in his chair during interviews with any sort of pressing questions. Paul Grewal then comes back into the interview to speak about how they have tried to communicate with the SEC multiple times. Coinbase has been talking to the SEC about our business for many years now, including sharing our legal views on our asset listing and staking services. We have repeatedly asked the SEC for its own views on how securities laws might apply to Coinbase and our industry, and to be candid, we've mostly gotten silence in response. They also go on to speak a little bit about the FTX collapse and how this has changed the SEC's views. Following the collapse of FTX, a digital asset trading platform that is entirely dissimilar to Coinbase, the SEC appears to have adopted a new view. That month, Chair Gensler said in an interview, "I feel that we have enough authority, I really do, in this space to regulate crypto companies." Of course, in the time between this statement and the prior ones, Congress did not pass any new legislation to fill the statutory void that Chair Gensler previously acknowledged, and the SEC has not tried to fill the void itself through rulemaking, even though the industry and Coinbase specifically have repeatedly and formally requested that the SEC do so. To be candid, this is pretty startling for Coinbase as a compliant U.S. public company to watch unfold. Paul Grewal continues the interview by saying that Coinbase is gearing up for a legal battle with the SEC, charity and stability to an important new industry for consumers and investors, not to mention the U.S. economy as a whole. We are instead gearing up for litigation. Coinbase does not want to litigate against the SEC, and the SEC should not want to litigate this case either. Litigation will put the SEC's own actions on trial. They then state that Coinbase prefers to work with the SEC rather than engage in litigation, which would harm both parties. Dialogue and collaboration: Coinbase urges the SEC to engage in dialogue, initiate rulemaking, and work together to create a regulated market for crypto securities. Brian emphasizes Coinbase's commitment to working within the regulatory framework and the importance of collaboration between the industry and regulators. The confidence seems to be oozing from both Coinbase heads. They almost seem arrogant that if this was to go to court, they would 100% win the legal battle. Again, this is great for cryptocurrency. The SEC is making a fool of themselves, and it seems like the XRP SEC memes are starting to become a reality. Now, just because there is a lack of regulation in the crypto markets right now doesn't mean you can't get some massive altcoin pumps right now. If you want to find out the top 7 best cryptos to buy right now, then check out the video on the screen now.